own Sid Rosenberg this morning on his ride to catch the ferry on the subway line. He's posted in on his Facebook. You got to check it out. He's posted in on his Instagram. One tough Jew picture there. And I remember, Sid, this morning when I was on with you and we talked briefly about the two Jewish Orthodox kids who got stomped on by some black anti-Semite on Myrtle Avenue in Bed-Stuy. You said that ain't going to happen no more. And boy, you didn't just say it. Tell the audience what you went out and did.
Well, I learned from you, Curtis. I learned from the best, and I mean that with the utmost respect and reverence. I really do mean that. And you've been talking for a while now that Jews need to stand up for themselves. And standing up doesn't mean, putting up an Instagram post. It means when somebody does something, don't be afraid to get in some type of physical altercation. So I got on I don't even know if it was the 4 or the 5. I got to be honest. It was the express train. I got off the 6th train from 51st to 42nd Street. Got on the express train, either the 4 or the 5 at 42nd Street to go down to Wall Street. I had just walked onto the train. I saw a man with a yarmulke to my left, and I sat down. I wasn't sitting for more than 5 seconds when some half-drunk, once again, African-American anti-Semite, walked up to this person with a yarmulke, was digging his finger into his chest, Curtis, digging his finger into his chest. And he kept yelling, "I'm not going to effing fight for you. I'm not going to effing fight for you, you genocide Jew mother effer." At that point, I'm sitting next to this gentleman, the Jewish gentleman. I stand up, I fold my arms, and I say, "I'm Jewish too." Now at least you've got 2-on-1. About, 5 feet to my left, another gentleman sitting down also stands up. He says, "I'm Jewish too." So all of a sudden, this tough-talking, half-drunk black guy was faced with 3 proud Jews ready to go. Now, I stood there the whole trip with my arms folded next to the man with the yarmulke. The black guy walked down to the end of the car. He continued to rant and holler, yelling all kinds of obscenities, talking about whites, talking about Jews. He even picked on a black guy on the train, called him an Uncle Tom. And then he actually left the train at the Brooklyn Bridge stop. So once he walked away from us, Curtis, we were no longer in danger of any physical harm. This guy got off the train at the Brooklyn Bridge stop. I stayed on till Wall Street. The Jewish guy was staying on till Crown Heights, going home for Shabbos. And he sat next to me and he said, "You know what? I truly believe in my heart of hearts, if you did not stand up next to me," he said, "that man was going to hurt me." And he said, "I know who you are. I listen to you. I know you've always been a lover of the Jews, but I wish people would have seen what you did for me just now. Thank you so much. I can go home and enjoy my Shabbos safely. Yisrael Chai." And I walked off the train, Curtis, somewhere between rage, you know how that is, and your heart beats really, really fast, and in tears, because I couldn't believe what I just saw with my own eyes on the train right in front of me. But I was thrilled to help that man out. And ironically, like you said, on a Shabbos Eve, on a Friday morning, but I saw it firsthand, the ugliness of anti-Semitism. But I stood up and said, "Not on this train, mother effer, not today."
And, it's interesting you said when he stepped off at the Brooklyn Bridge station, you all were out of harm's way. No, Sid, let me reverse it. He was out of harm's way. Because if you know Sid, and I'm sure that other guy near you who stood up, it was like a scene out of Spartacus. Who's Spartacus? Everybody's getting up in the train. I'm a Jew. I'm going to give you a beat down too. He was in fear for himself because naturally he's talking all that smack. He goes up to another black guy, calls him an Uncle Tom. Trust me, he got off the train. He was afraid. He did not expect Jews to stand up and fight for their own. They're not used to that in New York City. Israel, yes. New York City, no.
No, and you say that all the time, and you're right. There's no doubt that the guy was surprised. I think he would have stayed there and really roughed this Jewish guy up if I didn't stand up. And like you just talked about moments later, another guy actually bigger than me who stood up as well. And he was very comfortable sitting all the way at the very, very last seat in that subway car, again, hollering and ranting and yelling and screaming all kinds of obscenities at whites, at Jews, and like I said, even a black guy. But he was far enough away that, he knew that if he had touched that guy one more time, he was about to get pummeled by 3 Jews. I used to talk about Bernard all the time, Curtis. You have that fight or flight feeling. You know about this. You've gotten a million fights in your lifetime, arrested 81 times. You got that fight or flight. When you stand up and fold your arms, it's going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to calm down, which it did, or there's going to be a fight, which I was prepared, ready, willing, and able to do. And I had no idea which way it was going to go. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got nervous. This guy was bigger than me, this black guy. He was half drunk. He had nothing to lose. He doesn't have Danielle, Ava, and Gabriel, #1 talk show. He doesn't care. So I was a little nervous. But it didn't matter because no matter what, like I said, not on this train, not on this day.
Let's look at the stats. April, there were 95 instances reporting of anti-Semitism against New Yorkers. You know, there were probably more. People were just afraid to report. Only 8 incidents of Islamophobia. The numbers have skyrocketed since. All the politicians, they always say, well, you know, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Islamophobia is not a problem in our city now. The problem is anti-Semitism. You saw the 2 little Booker boys right there on Myrtle Avenue. Black guy gets off of his city bike, beats the hell out of him, and gets away. Now, I will tell you, years ago, when I was dealing with Shamrim, with the Williamsburg folks who are the Hasidim there, and then also in Crown Heights with the Shamrim there in the Shmira, there is a word said. It's called hopsum. Yes. And every Jewish man should yell hopsum, and that's a signal to every other Jewish man. Drop whatever you're doing. You may not be a martial artist. You may not be physically adept. You may be a bit of a dweeb or whatever. But if they see 40 or 50 of you coming at them, guess what? They ain't coming back into your neighborhood and messing with you anymore. They ain't messing with you anymore. And that's how the Lubavitchers survived for years. That's how the other Hasidim survived for years in this city, and the Orthodox, because they didn't take no guff. You came after one, you had to deal with 40 or 50, and then we lost that. We've lost that, so that the Jews have become very weak. Right away, they depend on the Goyim, who are not going to come to their aid. It just ain't going to happen. You got to get used to that. Instead, I'm proud of you. You've earned again the title, King David II. You showed that Jews can be just as tough here as they are each and every day in Israel.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you mentioned the showman. I actually got a call. I'm going to keep the guy's name out of it. He wants to remain anonymous, but they're considering me for the Man of the Year this year in their big annual gala coming up in November, the Shomrem, which is the Jewish fraternity of the police that Curtis was just talking about. But, Curtis, you talk about Islamophobia, and all that is, like you said, is a politician's excuse to minimize what's happening to the Jews. They do the same thing with white supremacy. There is no issue with white supremacy in this country. None. Zero. But they do that to minimize the issue with the blacks. So this is what they do. They want to make, they want to make the Jews, it's not so bad, or the whites, it's not so bad. We all know the truth. And look, what I did today, I don't know if it's that big a deal. I think in the end, I'm just a Jewish kid trying to protect one of my own brethren. But I was nervous. So my advice to other people is I didn't stand up so cocksure on myself that I can knock this guy out or I can win this fight. When I stood up, there was a chance that this guy, again, half drunk with nothing to lose, could take on the both of us. He was a very big guy. And I was nervous. I was. But so what? So what? You think when these IDF soldiers go into these tunnels in Gaza, they're not nervous? Curtis, for the 45 years that you become a legitimate icon, a legend, and it's all deserved. I got to imagine at least once or twice during all those scuffs over 45 years, you were nervous. So my advice is don't let the nerves get to you. Just stand up, do what you got to do. If you catch a beating, like they said in Goodfellas, every now and then, it's good to catch a beating. But in the end, I think you'll find out that 9 times out of 10, the bully will disappear and you will win the day. And that's a great feeling. Not on this train, not on this day.
Sid, in the spirit, if you went into Williamsburg, many, many years ago, I was there with the Satmar. The Hasidim there were getting attacked. It's right by the 90th precinct. The cops just seemed to be oblivious back then of what was going on. And I told them, hey, you got all these gangs south side. You didn't have the hipsters and millennials then. It was all these gangs, the dirty ones, the unknown bikers, the bikers. I mean, they were just coming over, and they were stealing the black hats of the Jews, and they were using it as trophies, and the beaver fur caps. And then I told them, hey, If you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't fight for yourself, forget the Goyim. They're not going to do it. Look, the cops in the 90th precinct, they say, call us afterwards. And they started to fight. And let me tell you something. You did not want to walk through that neighborhood looking for trouble because you'd have boots to the back of your head. And this is the message that Jews have got to give to everybody else. We're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to be victims. You might like it when Jews are victims, but guess what? We were victims in the attack of 9/11, and I hated every second of it, Sid. Every second, people from around the world, I feel your pain, I feel sorry. Really? No, that's why you got to be tough, because if you don't defend your own people, nobody will. So I'm proud of you, Sid. I'm proud of that other Jew who stood up. And this has got to be a symbolic now. Other Jews, you don't have to be a martial artist. You don't have to be a black belt. There's power in numbers. And this black guy, is going to go back to whatever crowd he hangs out with, and he's going to say, man, you ain't going to believe it. I'm in a train, and these three Jews stand up in there together, and they're ready to give me a beatdown.
Well, I'll say this on the way out. First of all, 9/11, of course, we know that many people have died in the last 20-plus years from toxins and cancers, but it was a one-day terrorist attack. We found 3 more dead bodies of Jewish hostages in Gaza today, and I believe 2 of them were beautiful young girls. So bodies are still popping up. So this thing is far from over. And I would just say that if this gentleman is out there, the man who was on the train, he says he listens to me, he loves the show, he's aware of me. If he is listening, or anybody that knows him is listening, I'm going to compel them to please call Curtis, call the station, because we'd love to talk to this guy on the air and, quite frankly, maybe get a police report. I don't know. But if anybody knows who this gentleman is, if he's listening or his family listening, please contact the station, because we want to make sure we go get the bad guy, and at the same time make sure more people know what happened on that train today.
And let's be perfectly straight on this, Sid. This is a problem in the black community. When you got guys like Jay-Z, who was a man of wealth now, a billionaire, saying, why do Jews own all the real estate in the world? When you got LeBron James retweeting some degenerate rapper's rap, that I love Jew money. When the leaders in the black community are perpetuating this anti-Semitism, this stereotype, it's time for Eric Adams, stop traveling around. Get into the black neighborhood and confront the anti-Semitism that we know exists. It's existed for decades. He doesn't want to touch that third rail. I touch it every day, as you know, Sid. I don't mind. But it's incumbent upon an African-American mayor to prioritize this, because there are going to be more attacks now. There are going to be more attacks, and Jews are going to have to galvanize and fight. In 1968, Maya Kahani formed the JDL because Jews were being attacked. And he said the famous, every Jew at 22, we're not going to be victims anymore. Now, does it have to get to that? Because you cannot depend on the Goyim. You just can't.
You're right. And, look at the mayor. We've talked about this before. And, it would make a lot of sense for him to go into the communities, talk to the young black kids. Almost every attack that you see in Borough Park, the attack in Rockaway this week, it's a black kid. That's the bottom line. Same thing with the Asians. So I've said this on the air with you a couple of times. Instead of hanging out with my white witch friends at Casa Cipriani on Thursday nights, you know who you are, it would be a good idea for the mayor to go into those areas that are populated by young black children and explain to them. He claims he loves the Jews. He's got his Jewish Heritage Month at Gracie Mansion. He's got Jewish donors all over the place. It would be nice if the mayor actually spent some time talking to the black youth in this city. Stop beating up Jews. Stop beating up Asians. You're 13% of the population. You make up 58% of the crime. You know what? The Pope in Rome can't help you with that. So take control, Eric, and do something in your own community.
Well, you're a great, proud Jew. You've rediscovered your roots with the attack in October 7th. And you are King David. And, in fact, they should have you and Jerry Seinfeld side by side leading the Support the Israel Day Parade on June 2nd. I know we're upset because we both have looked at the website. It's Chuck Schumer everywhere, and there's Mini-Me, Gerald the Whale Nadler. That's despicable. You want tough Jews who stand up to anti-Semitism. You got Seinfeld and Sid. And right now, Sid, in tribute to you, a little disco here, please. Little disco. Yeah. Oh, man.
Curtis,
Sid.
I love you, man. Thank you. Thank you for inspiring me to be the man I am today.
You got it. Sid would tear it up in pastels. 2001 Odyssey, yeah. And just think, here's your chance to win a pair of tickets to Disco Bowl, Atlantic City at the Tropicana on Saturday, June 15th. You got live performances by the Tramps featuring Earl Young, the Village People featuring Randy Jones, Santa Esmeralda featuring Leroy Gomez, Lime Music, First Choice, the Jets, DJs mixing it up between performances, including Ralphie D from 2001 Odyssey, Turn That Mother Out, hosted by Brooklyn's own Joe Causey and Speedy, friends of mine, and Sid Rosenberg. Be the seventh caller right now at 1-800-848-9222 to win a pair of tickets to Disco Bowl Atlantic City on Saturday, June 15th at the Tropicana. And if you missed your chance to win, tickets are available on Ticketmaster.com. That's 800-848-9222, or buy your tickets at Ticketmaster.com.